Hello everybody, Bruce here with a video on the box model. What I would suggest that you do is pause the video right now and go into Canvas and download the files that I'm using right here in my demonstration so that you can follow along. And what I'm going to do is go over the HTML structure and show you how I'm going to do this thing. So the first thing I want to do actually is stop scrolling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Live Preview, and you can see here that this is what this page looks like. Now, forgive me for the ugliness of this page or the lack of beauty, but it's for demonstration purposes only. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the directions down here under scenarios. And what we're going to do is we're going to learn a little bit about the box model going through these various scenarios, right? Okay. So you see on the page here, let me just show you this. I'll start at the body on line 21. We have a HTML5 header tag, and that's what's holding the H1 with the title of the page. And then on line 26, we have the main section of the page. And then we have 3 paragraphs. This is the first paragraph, this is the second, and on line 33 is the third. Now, I've given each paragraph an ID, box_1, box_2, box_3. And if I go back, you can see here is box 1, box 2, and box 3. And that's the text in each one. Now, something I want you to notice is the width of those boxes, okay? Because they're not, these paragraphs are block level elements, so they take up the entire width of their container unless I've resized them. And I'll show you that momentarily. Back to the HTML. So we have 2 breaks there just to give us some space. Then I have an H3 tag. And then I have an ordered list, and each one of those LIs, the list items, is going to be the CSS that I'm going to be modifying in each step. And then I have the closing OL, the closing main, and the closing body tag. All right? So pretty straightforward stuff. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the CSS folder. And I've given you 2 CSS files there. One is the starter CSS, and one is what your CSS should be after you complete this video or this demonstration. So let's go through it. Starting on line 3, we have the body selector. I've set the font family, the background color, the font size, the color of the text, the margin and padding to 0, and the width of the body to 960 pixels. Okay, everyone okay so far? Now, the next thing I'm doing is on line 13 of my CSS, I'm applying a selector for the header, which is going to align anything in that header element to be centered. Next, on line 17, we have the main selector, which is going to apply CSS property value pairs, declarations to the main element there. It's going to give it a border of, I like to do it this way, by the way, 3 pixels solid, but you can write it that way as well. Okay, 3 pixels solid, that's the style of the border, and black. No margin and no padding. And then for the box, I have, notice back in the HTML here, I have 3 paragraphs and they're assigned IDs. And if you remember from prior modules, IDs can only be assigned to one element. And these boxes are unique because I'm going to be applying different CSS to each one. Now, I could have used the class, but I just wanted to use IDs. All right. So here we go. So here is the pound or # box 1 selector. We're setting the background, the text color, the text alignment to justify, the width to 300 pixels. And if you remember before, right? This is 300 pixels wide now. No margin, no padding, and a border of solid 4 pixels green. All right. I don't know why I decided to write it that way, but that's all right. Either way, 4 pixels solid green or solid 4 pixels green. Okay. And then box 2 is almost the same thing. I just applied different colors to the border. Do you see this down here on line 40 compared to line 30? And same thing for box 3. So those are the 3 boxes right there. And we're going to use the box model to play around to show you how this thing works, how this concept works. The other thing I want you to take note of on the screen here is that the text, right, green bordered, blue bordered, is slammed up right against the border of each one of those boxes, right? You okay with that? The other thing is, you see this box around this black box? I mentioned it, so where is that box? Okay, where is that box? It's around the main, right? The main area of the page has a 3-pixel solid black border, and that's it. Okay, that's the main area of our page. The header is not part of main. That's why it's not receiving the black border. So let's go. The first step under scenario says add margin 50 pixels to main. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to go here and change margin from 0 to 50. So let me give you a look. You see what this looks like here? Let's go back, and I'm going to type 50. I'm going to save it. And do you see how the entire main area, actually we applied it to the main, right? You see how it moved over 50 pixels? Do you see that? And if I made it 150, just to show you even more, you can see it moved over that amount, okay? Do you see that right there? So margin is outside of the border, outside of the box, all right? So let me change it back to 50. The next thing it wants us to do is add padding of 50 pixels to the main. So again, sorry about that. Look where we are now. Look where these boxes are. And I'm going to add 50 pixels of padding. I'm going to save it. And notice how the boxes, right, got pushed away from the border of the main. See, this is 50 pixels. The padding is actually on the top, right, bottom, and left. All right? So there you go on that one. On to step number 3. Add margin 20 pixels to box number 1. Okay? So see box number 1 here? It wants us to include 20 pixels of margin. Okay, so here's box 1. The margin is right now set to 0. Now, I want you to understand that margin written like this applies to the top, right, bottom, and left margins. You can specify margin dash top, margin left, margin right, margin bottom as separate values. But when I do it like this, I think it was 20, right? And I save it, notice what happened to the first box. It got 20 pixels of margin here, and it got 20 pixels of margin here, and it also got it here and here, but you cannot see that. I mean, you probably could if I put it back. All right, so there is, that's that. That's that is step number 3. Let's add 20 pixels to box 1 of padding. So box 1, padding, that's inside the border, inside, right? And now you can see we now have padding around the content. Padding around the content. Yeah, you doing okay? All right. I know I just saw all those light bulbs go off on top of everyone's head who's watching this video. Okay, it's a two-way video thing, right? No, just kidding. All right, let's go back. All right, so the next step, it says, we did that. So now it says step number 5, add padding of 30 pixels to box number 2. Okay, box number 2, padding, what was it again? Padding of 30 pixels. Padding of 30. Here we go, box number 2. So now you can see box number 2 has 30 pixels of padding. That's around the content inside the box. How about that? All right, let's carry on. So that was that was step 5. Step 6, add margin negative 40 to box number 3. Negative margin negative 40. So let's go to box 3, the selector. Let's go add negative 40. And let me go back here. Whoa! So we gave it negative margin in the top direction, the right, the bottom, and the left direction. How about that? Ooh, all right. I don't know if that's very readable, but I want to show you that you could do it. So I added negative margin of 40. Now it wants me to remove the negative 40 from box number 3. Okay. And by the way, it really pays to do this by yourself instead of watching it. Just saying. All right. So step number 8, change border width from 4 pixels to 10 pixels for box number 2. So box number 2 has a border width of 4 pixels. It wants us to change it to 10 pixels. Okay. So let's look and notice how the border on all 4 sides became 10 pixels. And I have this text next to it that says box 2 became 12 pixels taller. But we only did it 10, Bruce. It became 12 pixels taller and 12 pixels wider than before. Border width is 4 pixels and became 10 pixels. That is an increase of 6. But that happens for all 4 sides. So the top and bottom borders have a difference of 12 pixels. So notice how that math occurred there. Go back through it, okay? Because when you add margin and padding, the width of the box is going to change on the top and bottom and the left and right, depending upon how you change it. So it's the sum of the width of the content, the width of the padding on top or bottom or left and right, the size of the border, and the margin. Okay, so with the border, left and right, top and bottom, whichever width or height you're trying to calculate, as well as the margin on the left and right. So all those things get added together. And there's a good explanation in the book and Canvas on that. All right. So check this out. Step number 9. Number 9. Add float right to box number 2. Okay. So here's what we have now. Now, again, add float right to box number 2. So box number 2, let's just add a new property, float right and semicolon. And if we go back, oh, look at that. Box, again, I did that to box 2, right? So box number 2 floated over to the right, and look where box number 3 went. It moved up in its place because of this float here. So that box, which is a block level element, went up and filled in where it could fit. Okay? Ooh, yeah. All right. Last one. Add clear both to box number 3. So what that's going to do now, again, look where box 3 is. This is box 2 on the right with the blue border, and box number 3 is on the left, right? So if you go here now into box number 3 and say, hey, clear both. Clear both. Ready? You see what it did? It cleared the margins on all sides, top, bottom, left, and right, and it was able to go into its proper spot. All right, so what I want you to do is go through the code. I do give you the completed CSS that I just modified, and if you notice in the HTML file right here, on line 16 and 17. So right now I am referring to on line 16 the box model demo CSS file. If I want to switch to the one that's commented out, the first thing I do is put my cursor at the beginning of line 16. I hit Alt/, okay, in Visual Studio Code, and I'll do the same thing, Command/ if you're on a Mac. And now I'll uncomment this one right here on line 17, save my file, and it's showing the modified CSS, the after CSS. All right, I think this is a pretty neat demo on the box model. It's really important to understand how boxes work. There is something we'll be covering in a future module called box sizing, because right now the box, right, this box that we talk of, right, is includes margin outside the box, the border of the width of the border, and the padding and the content, right? So if you size an element to a certain width, and then you give it padding, and then you give it border and margin, the overall width of that box is going to change. But box sizing, which we'll learn about again in the future, allows us to use the border as the overall box size. All right, you need to know both. Thanks for watching. Be sure to download the code in Canvas, and if you haven't any questions, please talk to your instructor. Have a great day.